In today's video, we're going to give you a step-by-step guide on how to relocate to Colorado Springs.
So the most important thing, in my opinion, is researching the city, researching the area, researching the neighborhood, and any employment opportunities that are available in your field. A lot of people, we find that have this dream of just moving to Colorado Springs but don't have a full plan of employment. They figure they'll just get it once they get here. Visit the area that you're planning on moving to. So Colorado Springs, if you were looking to move to like the north area where it's newer and growing, stay in an Airbnb or maybe a hotel in the area and just kind of drive around neighborhoods, get a good feel for them. Once you find the area that you want to stay in, then do more research as far as schools, daycares. Call your insurance companies just to see what your rates would be if you were to change over to that city, because they could vary.
Once you've done your research and you've decided to make your move, the next thing we think you should do is set a relocation budget. So some folks want to relocate and they don't think ahead as far as the costs that they're going to have relocating. Think about movers, new things that you're going to have to buy, groceries, cleaning supplies when you get to your new place, all things to consider when you're building the budget. The last thing you want to do is get to a new place and be short on money because you under budget it for what the move will cost you, which can then make your experience more difficult. Figuring out whether or not you're going to rent or buy is another thing that we suggest you doing. When we moved here, we knew that we wanted to buy, but we were open to renting if we felt like we didn't get enough information. But we did research all the areas and did a lot remotely and connected with a local agent. So we were able to do a lot of that research up front that made us feel comfortable enough to buy a home. We contracted on a new construction home, so we did need a short-term rental while our house was being built, but we did rent and then bought as soon as our home was done being built.
She kind of touched on it, but connect with a real estate agent that will be plugged into the community. They will know the city, what will be a good fit for you and your family, whether it's us or any other real estate agent. They should know the city pretty well and give you advice and tips on any questions that you have. The other thing is securing employment. So depending on what your field is, just do some research ahead of time. Indeed, any of those job finding websites are a wealth of knowledge as well. We are heavy on the IT side. So if you do work in the IT field, there shouldn't be an issue of you finding employment, but just do your research heavily before you move here.
Yeah, applying for a job and having a job secured before you get here is something that we usually advise for people, just because, there's a lot of uncertainties and things that could go wrong once you move here. So having a steady income once you get here can help alleviate some of that stress. After that, if you do have children, we suggest starting to register them in school. So you figured out whether or not you want to rent or buy, so you have an address, and with that address you can register your kids in school. If you don't like the school district that you're zoned for your particular home or apartment, then you can choice into other districts. So make sure you look into other school districts and figure out how that choice and process works so that you can take all the steps to get your kids enrolled in the school that you want them to go to. Another thing we suggest you doing that a lot of people don't think about is transferring your medical records to a local doctor here, or even just going to your old doctor saying, hey, we're going to move, and then gathering all your records so that you don't have to worry about the transfer. You're just going to the new doctor with those medical records. Once you've done that, we suggest notifying all your current service providers that you're going to be moving. So shutting that off for when the time comes to move, giving notices to your rentals, apartments if you're renting, or starting the process to sell your home in your old location.
So another thing would be to create a moving timeline to get a good idea of when you're planning on moving and when you're actually going to move. If you're doing it for the summer and you have kids, then it's not a huge deal. They won't miss school much, if at all. Most districts have summers, so it's not a year-round school. So if you are moving in the fall time, then you might have to plan differently for your kids not to miss too much school. Your packing and prepping for your move is also important. You have to decide if you're going to hire professional movers or move everything yourself. And again, that goes back to the timeline. If you're going to be moving in the spring or the winter, then that might be more challenging just because there is snow and ice on the mountains. If you're doing it in the summer or the fall, early fall, It's not that big of a challenge if you are moving everything yourself.
So once you have your moving timeline, you've gotten your stuff packed up, it's getting picked up, or you're moving it yourself. Now your move actually starts and you update your address. So make sure you do your mail forwarding. We see it all the time where people forget to do that. There's a lot that goes into a move and things that can be missed. So make sure you update your addresses. You register your vehicles when you get here. You update your insurance and that information so that everything is up to date and reflects your new home address.
And once you move to your new home here in Colorado Springs, make sure that you set up utilities. Typically, you would be doing that ahead of time. You would know when your move-in date is, but make sure that you set up your utilities. Get familiar with all the local services. There are various utilities services for different neighborhoods, different parts of the city. So just make sure that you are setting up the correct information.
Another thing we suggest you doing is to get familiar with local services and activities around you. So whether or not you want to put your kids in sports, you're interested in a hobby, or just any other resource that you need, make sure you research that or connect, with your realtor who should give you a list of that information for you to set you up in your new home. After that, you get here, you unpack, you meet your neighbors, and hopefully are getting involved in the community. But if you need any extra tips or our guide to moving to Colorado Springs, make sure you reach out to us and let us know if we can answer any questions.